All right, we are back in SEC play. We are coming off a 3-point victory over the Florida Gators, 61-58. That is the 26th home win in a row. Amazing. Neville Arena does it again. It was a hard defensive game, low scoring, but this is, the little points here and there that Neville Arena gives us, a home game. We're doing a little podcast hosts SEC prediction contest here. We have people from all four of us from the jungle. We got the two AU Wishbone, John Ringer and Van Allen Plexico. We got Ryan Sterrett from Orange and Mag or Orange and True and College and Mag. Ike Jones from the War Report, Kyle Loomis from E2C, Painter Sharpless from Auburn Observer, Son of Crow from College Mag, Zach Blackerby from Locked On Auburn. We'll go over that again later, but it's interesting to see what picks they picked for home versus away losses. Only two people picked this one as a loss at home because we have a lot of confidence at our home games right now. The only people that picked us as a loss at home were Ben from our podcast and Van Allen Plexico from the AU Wishbone. So that kind of shows how much confidence we have at home, that out of like 10 people picking, only two had us losing at home. It was hard fought, Matt. Any thoughts right off the bat?
Yeah, let's talk about what happened. It was not very confident during this game. It looked pretty bad. We got to watch together in Nashville. I have the Neville Arena background if you're watching on YouTube, just to honor it's still amazing that Auburn could play a game like that. If you watched it, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Hopefully we'll be able to unpack it for people who maybe missed it. It was an ugly game. We didn't do many things well, especially on offense. And you come away beating a Florida team that's probably going to be in the top half of the SEC, which is all you can ask for. And a lot of it, you're right. Like, there's kind of this quiet confidence that this team has playing at home. And I think it really showed in the last 4 minutes. So we have a lot to pick apart. There's a lot to not like about what happened tonight for the first SEC game based on the things we've been talking about all year. But you love ugly wins. You love close wins. You love home wins when you've got one of the longest win streaks in the country. And most importantly, when you go through the schedule, I think we're going to play a lot of close games. And every time you get a chance to win one, you need to grab the bull by the horns. And we did that tonight.
Win your clunkers, these hard rock fight, as they call them, basketball games. You got to pull out the wins in them. We got a veteran team of sorts, and we pulled out the win, and that's what's important. And like I said, I'm trying to put it in context with the 26 home games in a row that we've won. So enjoy it. I think we talked in the SEC podcast a bit. We are going to be underdogs in several games this year. We don't have that same tension that, oh no, we can't lose a game. Enjoy the wins on this. And how dare I forget that me and Matt got to watch in person together in Nashville, which is a lot of fun. Shout out to everyone that showed up to watch with us in Nashville. It was really cool to have people out there to watch with us and watch together at Twin Kegs in Nashville. Super fun and just cool to be back with the buddies, up here for the college or up here for the Christmas break. And I guess we can get into MVP here. We were in person talking about, we're like, who's going to be MVP here? It's not going to be easy. And it's not going to be easy, not because a couple people stepped up so hard. It's because there wasn't really like one person I felt like took it over. I don't know if you want to go over kind of who you think's in contention for MVP.
Yeah, three guys. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Really, there's two, but I think one guy earns the mention. Johni Broome outplayed, on the stat sheet at least, Colin Castleton. There's a lot to get into with Johni that, I mean, it's very interesting. I have some stuff from his last three games I think we need to talk about. He 14 and 11, a double-double, 4 assists. He was very active on a lot of our key plays. It really stood out to me watching the highlights back after I got home. Watching it live with friends is always a little tricky. We were definitely trying to pay attention, but we're also talking with people. I think he was a huge part of this, so he's got to be in there. I think Wendell Green put the team on his back when it got really dicey. Jackson was losing his mind at the end of the first half because Bruce didn't call a timeout, and there was like an 8-0 run from Florida. They're up 6 going to the half, and it really just slipped away from us. And then Wendell hits a massive 3 to end the half, and he hits a massive 3 to open the second half. He also got a steal, literally the first inbound. Like, Florida had the possession to open the second half. You never see this. Wendell gets a steal off the inbounds and gets us to the free throw line within 2 seconds of the half starting. So his pivotal moments, he finished a crazy layup late. Wendell was who we need him to be. He hit 6 of 8 from the line. I think almost all that was in the second half. He stepped up. I don't know if he's still battling some of the foot stuff. He didn't look right in the first half. He couldn't really get into his offense, but man, he stepped up when we needed him. The other guy I would mention, Chris Moore. Bruce Pearl said in his press conference tonight that if he had one guy to pick as somebody who represents what Auburn basketball is in his mind as the coach, it's Chris Moore. And it's not the points. It's not the efficiency. He's shooting great this year. He's contributing. It's the hustle plays. It's the extra possessions. It's the tipped balls, tipping offensive rebounds, always in the right spot, cutting off away from the basket, getting good shots for an offense that is just anemic at times. So I think those are your 3 options. What do you think about those 3 guys?
Yeah, I love that you bring up Chris Moore again, because like you said, it's not the points that's necessary. I mean, he got 8 points, which is honestly, with how bad the 3 position's been down the last 2 years, 8 points is pretty nice. And he's been getting kind of 5 to 10 recently. And it's not the points even. It's everything around it. It just feels like he's constantly in the discussion. He's constantly getting his hands on the ball. He's constantly crashing the boards, making better shots for other people. Like, really just big shout out for Chris Moore. I don't think give him MVP or anything, but just big shout out. I mean, he's grown on me so hard in this added conference in the early year. Like, thank God, honestly, we have him in the 3 position. We didn't think he'd be on this team at all at this point. And now he's a starter. And not only is he a starter, I'm starting to feel like he's grabbing it by the horns. Matt made a great point while we were watching. Chris Moore played finisher minutes, I believe, this time. Yep. And that's huge because we've been going over the whole time about how Chris Moore, sure, he's the starter, but Alan Flanagan's playing more minutes than him and playing those finisher minutes. Now Chris Moore's kind of taking the horns and saying, yeah, maybe I'm not the best player out here, but I'm going to play better than these other people. I'm going to make the hustle plays that matter in these games. And he's taking them by the horns. You mentioned Broom and Green. At one point, we hoped it would be Jalen, maybe. I know you have some rants about Jalen, but they really tried to work the offense through him at times, and it didn't always work out. He did end up with tied for third itself at 13 points. But, Broom had 14, Wendell Green and Broom both tied with 14 points. You mentioned the last 2 minutes of that half, and not to get too ranty about that too. And thank God Wendell hit that long 3, and he hit another long 3, I believe, at a different point, maybe even a third one. Let's see how many he get. No, just 2. Both his 3s were long NBA style 3s, and they were both, I don't know if I love the shots, but they went in, and that's what matters sometimes. And he's shown he can do it. And it killed me with about 2 minutes left. Matt has another great point where he talks about trying to win the game, win the advantage going into that final TV timeout. And it felt like, okay, we're right on the precipice there. It felt like we were okay right out of when we first got back. They kind of boomed us. They turned us over. They scored on us. We looked a little frantic. We didn't look quite like what we needed. I think we turned the ball over again. They scored on us again. They said, all right, this is the time. You can just feel it. And maybe this is hindsight, but you can just feel it when a team is a little off kilter. They're trying to go too hard. They're trying to make up for the last 2 plays that didn't work out. We had 4 timeouts. You can't take one with you. This is the second time I've gone on this rant in the last 10 games, I think. We're just take the timeout. Just take time out. This team is not going to, I know there's the theory that, they'll figure it out themselves. If we keep running, we'll outrun the other team and figure it out. It's just not really happening. I just wish when we get a little too frantic in the last 2 minutes, don't let them take the game by the horns going into the half. And we let them do that. And it kind of put the game on a different kilter. The whole second half, we were kind of going back and forth, and we started the game with a 7-0 run that really felt like we were talking oh man, I'm not saying it, but it'd be really cool if we did what we did to LSU last year and really boomed them, let them come all the way back from there. Same with the second half. It felt like we could have gone into the halftime, kind of leading the game, kind of feeling like it's our game, let them get us without taking that timeout. But luckily Wendell, like you said, big 3 to keep us in it and not completely let that into the half kind of throw us off our kilter. He was angry coming off the court. We talked about that too. He comes back out of the second half, scores several times for us, kind of puts the game on his back, kind of when we looked around this team, said, who is going to go out there and get us some hard points in a game that's really low scoring? It was Wendell. I think that's who we have to give the MVP to. I don't know if that's, it sounds like you're already in agreement for that.
Let's explore Janai a little more.
Okay.
Wendell did his thing. He came through for us in some key moments. So Janai Broom quietly is basically scoring Man, I wish I had saved that. He's had 14, 16, 18 points, close to double digit or double digit rebounds against 3 Power 5 teams in a row. If everybody, I think almost everybody who listens to us probably watches all the games or most of them. Like, he has struggled at times hitting inside on easier shots. He has at times maybe struggled a little bit on defense at times. Not with blocks, but just positioning and playing. But I think we have to start here with Johni Broome. Like, Colin Castleton has hurt us every single time. And tonight, the difference was Auburn had a great plan to defend him, and it started with Broome and Cardwell, going mano a mano, and we brought some double teams, and we eventually made Florida shift their entire offensive strategy to putting Castleton at the top of the key and letting him facilitate and throw passes.
You believe that we forced that? That was not a decision by them to say that let's let them concentrate too much on Castleton and get all these backdoor cuts and all these dunks and all these drives past guys. You think that we forced that issue?
I do. I don't think there's any world where you would have thought that he was going to shoot 6 times tonight and go 1 for 6. He made 1 shot. Every time we made him shoot a tough shot or make a move without opening something up for somebody else, it didn't go well. Now, that could just be an off night for him, but he played 33 minutes. He played the most minutes of anybody on their team. He shot 6 times. He made 1 shot. And if I remember correctly, he got to the free throw line. He hit 2 sets of 2 free throws, but I did not think that those were fouls. So he was really fortunate to get to 6. So I think you have to start there. Broome was able to hold up in one-on-one and within the defense we put together. And I think if Ben was here and some other people might have been watching and being like, hey, like, where's Broome on this help defense? Like, why are all these guys driving past our perimeter defense and just dunking? And like, where's our center? Well, our center is having to kind of pay attention to the all SEC player. And Castleton is good enough of a mid-range shooter. And as a weapon, you can't just leave him like teams leave Cardwell sometimes. You can't just abandon him. So I think Florida adjusted. They burned us for too long. And then we eventually adjusted back at the very end. All that to say, I just think Broome, I think a lot of us looked at this game. Can Broome be an SEC big man, right? Kind of like Kessler last year. Can he stand up to the challenge? Broome doesn't always look great, but you and I were talking, like, he's got post moves. He's got a little toughness and like edge to him that I think is really good. It is frustrating that he's still missing some gimmies, but when you're missing gimmies and having a double-double against Colin Castleton in your first SEC game, I think we need to step back and like praise that. I really think that's super important for this team, that he is a productive offensive player.
I enjoyed watching a particular play where he faced up against, I believe, Colin Castleton and scored, or at the very least, he faced up, and it was just really fun to see one of our centers turn around and look at the basket and make a move. It's been rare with our centers in the last couple of years. Cardwell can't do it. Kessler couldn't do it. Austin Wiley definitely couldn't do it. He also dribbled drive from the 3-point line once or twice. That was cool to watch. I mean, not all the way to the basket, but at least he felt confident enough to put the ball on the floor and advance it up a little bit and open up some space. That was really cool. Yeah, maybe I'm underrating the fact that he had, maybe slightly less good offensive game than Wendell Green, in my opinion. Maybe he didn't take the game by the horns at different times. I keep using that game by the horns. I got to think of some other analogies, but yeah, maybe I'm underrating the huge defensive factor there. I'll be curious if, I feel like Memphis maybe did this. I mean, maybe I need to look back at Memphis a little bit. I feel like they drove past us a ton, dunked on us a ton in the paint. You saw it several times tonight. I think fudged like 3 plays within like 5 possessions, just dunked on us. It was super annoying to watch because we had Broome out there. I'll be curious, Florida lost, Memphis won. How much more they do that? Take our centers out of the paint, get the block party out of the equation, and watch our guards get blown by. It's happened twice now. So you're curious to see if that's a strategy now, but I'm good with either Wendell or Broome. You've won me over, I think, a little bit with the defensive, game plan with Broome and everything. I wish I, saw more blocks, things, but that's like you said, they brought them out. Well, so
here's the 2 things I think we need to, and we won't spend too much time on this, but I think the 2 differences between their games. Number 1, I think Broome was a consistent force throughout the game, but Wendell, when he was needed and it was getting really bad, He was so quiet in the first half. I mean, he barely got up a shot, and I was starting to have horror stories of like last year, like you and I, like towards the end of SEC play, like, man, can he do this? He drew fouls. He made some veteran plays. He hit a few shots. And honestly, the thing that might sway it to Wendell, I haven't seen him score 14 on 8 shots, I don't think ever. That's very efficient. He didn't force his offense. He did when he did exactly what we've talked about. Like, don't take over the game and be the guy shooting 17 times. But man, when we need you to make those plays. And so maybe that's where
it kind of comes down to the fact that he made those 2 NBA threes, doesn't it? He doesn't make those. Like, I don't think it's even 50-50. I don't think that's, maybe 20% of the time he makes both of those like that. He made them tonight. And so maybe you give it to him because he made them tonight. But I come down a lot to like, was that a good shot? Probably not. And I don't think those were desperation 3 times either. I think if he missed it when we were like already frantic in that last 2 minutes because they were stealing the ball from us, turning us over, fast breaking, and then he came back and hit that 3. But if he had missed that 3, I would have been losing my mind that he didn't slow our team down and get us a good shot. So I don't know. Well, I'm pretty open to persuasion here.
I'll tell you this. They put it out on Twitter. Auburn basketball put it out on Twitter. Who was the what they called it something different than the MVP, but it was basically who was the MVP. The fan vote was with Janai Broome, with Wendell behind. Maybe these are the 2 things that sway it for us. Who led us in assists tonight? Janai Broome from the center spot. Who had 1 turnover in 27 minutes against Colin Castleton? Janai Broome.
Led us in rebounds. Rebounds with 11, and that was a huge. If you watched our pre-game thoughts with Ryan, I think we're going to do some more of those. He talked about the rebounding battle that we've been struggling at times in these games. 11 rebounds against Colin Castleton again, pretty huge. So I think we're landing Janai.
And here's the thing, Jackson. If Janai can, I know at this point we've watched so many games and he's still missing some of these. If he puts 2 or 3 of those gimmies in, we're looking at 20 points, 11 rebounds in 27 minutes against Colin. So I think the coaching staff didn't help him out on defense a little bit with how we were adjusting to what Florida was doing. That took him away from the basket to be that rim protector. I think you can go either way. I think it's a matter of what you value. I felt like Broome I'm telling you, what I would tell anybody who disagrees with us about this MVP, go watch the 2-minute highlight package and remember all these little plays that he contributed to or he finished that were tough finishes and some big moments down the stretch that I had kind of forgotten. So I'm okay either way. The more I look at Broome, though, I almost wonder if we have to give it to him. And he was in foul trouble late in the first half, too. You don't forget that.
And on weak foul calls, too. And you wonder how much of this is like potential kind of thing. Like he should be doing better. So that's harder to like award him. You feel like he's so close. You feel like he's so close. And we talked about this during the game, too. He's a sophomore. He's still got room to grow. So I think we need to maybe we keep calling him a veteran. We keep calling him a guy that's been there and should do these things. I even talked about in the SEC preview how I kind of expected him to be more consistent. He's still got 3 more years left in college, right? So, or 2 more at least. So you just hope that maybe like he's growing every game,
I mean, honestly, I love Janai Broome, but if he gives us this every game, I'm thrilled the rest of the way. I think this is against this big guy, in his first SEC game against this kind of competition. Like I'm thrilled with. Go back and look at his stats the last 3 games. It's 18-8, 14-11, and he's becoming the guy that I think the coaches with their minutes, how long they're playing him 25, 27 minutes a game. They see him as this guy. And could it be better? Sure. Is he still learning on both ends and getting with this new team? Yes. But like, I would take this every night in SEC play. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I want to know, I think we're awarding it. Janai Broome, you were the MVP for the first SEC game. Great to have 2 centers in 2 years in a row at the start of SEC play to be our MVPs. Walker Kessler last year, Janai Broome this year. The next place I wanted to take it a little bit is, are these 2 great defensive teams that played in a rock fight? Or are we both just really bad at offense? What happened out there? I mean, we shot 21% from 3. They shot, thank God, 15% from 3. Did we do that to them? Did they, one of the bigger stats too, 89% from the free throw line for Florida. If they don't shoot a really great percent there, they don't stay in this game. But on the flip side, our 66% is not great. And we need to take that up. And this game would not have been as close if we could just hit a couple more free throws here and there, So what do you think? Two great defensive teams. Are we going to look back on this, or what do you think?
Well, yeah, let's sit on that. That's a really good topic. We all know Auburn's defense has elite potential. We've talked on this podcast, if you hold teams under 60, surely to goodness we can score 60 points. Tonight we made it look really tough.
At home too. At home, people home. Remember that.
But look, I was not happy. I thought we were slow to adjust. I thought we gave up too many easy baskets. To me, when I watch this team play, what I'm thinking, how can we just make life consistently difficult for other teams? If we do, we're going to be a really tough out. It's going to be tough for teams to score against us. It really is. And we need to remember, even in the ugliness, that's the only reason Auburn wins this game. And Florida missed some open threes that we missed assignments and stuff. Overall, though, I thought our base, what I would call our base defense, was terrific. I really thought that when we didn't give up something easy going to the basket, that Florida didn't have much on offense.
I thought I heard a different take from Matt in person as we went on. I thought I heard a take about us pushing up too hard on defense at the top of the key, and that it was an issue and we kept getting blown by.
Let me explain. That's what I'm talking about. When we just let Florida have to take a shot, and a tough shot, they did not score almost the whole game. It was almost comical. Think about all the dunks and the layups and the free throws. I mean, Florida might have hit 10 contested shots or the whole game. Okay. So I was more upset that when Castleton was we call it in basketball, they call it pulling up the big, elevating the big guy, taking him away from the basket, bringing him out. That leaves that void back there. Our perimeter defense has to be different sitting in that half court defense when that happens. And I just felt like we were a little slow to adjust to that. We're not Bruce. We're not smart. We're just a fan podcast. But it's rare that I watch a game where it just seemed very clear to me. I'm not a guy who thinks I'm super knowledgeable or anything. So what I mean by base is when we sat in a stance and didn't let somebody go by us. I thought our defense was terrific. I think we only got in trouble with some really bad foul calls throughout the whole game that were terrible. We didn't play well, so that's not what we should focus on, but the foul thing was really bad the whole game. And then the other part was we were overextending on the perimeter. And I think the reason for that, Bruce is clearly freaked out by this team's offense. He's never had a team struggle to score this badly, I don't think, since I've been watching him. And I think I heard him say once lately, our defense doesn't work if you don't do it with effort and energy. And it's almost like that's how they're trying to mobilize that energy. It's go, I don't care where your guy is, go get him. The problem is you can't just let guys go by you on the perimeter because it makes your big guys look bad if they're there. And if they're not there, it's a layup or a dunk. So base defense, I want us to press. I want us to be aggressive. I want us to push the pace. But once they break that half court, let's make it tough for teams to score. And I think if we do that, we can still be a really good team.
We did not shoot many threes. 14 threes in this game. It's super, like you said, that we're worried about this offense and what they can do. And I think we've just not completely, if it's open, we're going to shoot it. But they are not looking for that 3-point shot anymore. They're really pushing it in. I keep looking back at their 15%. I just remember how many open threes they got in the first half, and none of them went in. And we just I think as fans watching it at a bar with other people, you just okay, whatever. Yeah, they didn't go in. Now we're going the other way. And you start thinking about your team. But if you're the other way around, if you're a Florida fan, you're like, man, just a couple more of those go in. This game's completely different. We went to Auburn and shot 15% for three. Of course we lost. And we're thinking over here, what did we do right to win? But I guarantee Florida's saying, we screwed up. We shot 15% from three. And we'll be saying the same thing when we go to Georgia in our next game or in these other away games and shoot 50% from three. We're just going to say, well, that's it. If you can't shoot more than 15% from three, you're done. And I don't know. Yeah. I would love to say that 15% from three was our defense, but the amount of open shots I remember, I just worry about that. And it's really funny and, to complain about defense that only let them score 58 points to say like, oh, they missed some things here and there. They pushed up too much. They didn't adjust to the whole bringing Broom out. They left too many 3-point shooters. KD missed a couple of assignments. Jalen missed a couple of assignments. It's just funny to complain at 58, but a lot of the same with Wendell hitting his NBA threes. I'm looking a lot for what are good percentage shots. What is good position defense? If they hit a 3 in our face at the end of a shot clock from NBA range, I'm still going to clap for our team because we played good defense. And you just kind of hope that the gods of the odds or whatever are going to eventually fall. The averages are going to eventually fall in your favor. So it's just funny to complain about, 58 points here.
Let's talk about that, because you're exactly right. The two things that I've seen with my elementary eye since the Memphis debacle, right? And whatever game was after that where we barely won, it was just so ugly. The press on defense, we've extended our pressure in the half-court defense, and we are just – Bruce has made the biggest 180 on the three-point shooting and where we're looking for our shots. And you saw it so clearly tonight when we were talking, like how many straight possessions to start the game was it like Jalen at the elbow, Jalen in the post, Janai in the post, everything's inside. For an Auburn team to be shooting like 14 threes in an SEC game at home is wild. But credit the coaches. Like they waited about 8 or 10 games to really, they didn't want to overreact. Now, I think they've done a really nice job of making some changes. If you go back, this is uncharted for Bruce's team. So you can really look at that and be terrified for like the next 2 months that we're about to have to watch. Or I think there are some real bright spots. And by the way, you made a great point on the threes. Like there were 4, 5, 6 threes that we gave up that you just hope teams miss, and we got lucky tonight a little bit. But they also hit a couple that were really fortunate for them out of their three. And I would say of the other 12 to 15 threes, I thought we defended really well. And that's still 20%. And by the way, for the season, opponents are shooting 26% from three against us. So we are winning the 3-point battle for the year. Shockingly. Because our defense,
even at our SEC bottom of the SEC 30% average from three round, which just got dragged down even more with a 21% from three average tonight at home.
But our 3-point defense is statistically really good. Now, that doesn't excuse the open threes that they missed, but I do want to point out it's not like this is a real thing. So we are good at defending teams at the 3-point line because we are pushing up a little bit. And we've been good at that for the last couple of years. But anyway, we're getting a little off track.
I think there's some things to watch going forward. That's part of the fun of like getting together and talking about this stuff. Let's watch what the average amount of 3-pointers are shot. I mean, I was talking about before, we need to shoot more than 30%. Now I'm interested to just see how much lower our average of 3-point shooting attempts are per game compared to past years under Bruce Pearl, even last year and even all these other teams that were not necessarily, since Bryce Brown and that Final Four team, have not been a great 3-point shooting team, really. I mean, we had Jabari, which was amazing, but it'll be really interesting to see what average number we end up, at for SEC or for 3-point attempts. I know you had a Jalen Williams rant locked in your chamber, ready to go, and I'm ready to hear it.
I'm the Jalen guy. So look, I think Jalen is a really good player. I'm going to give him his credit that he hit 3 or 4 shots in the second half and hit them. He got open looks and made them. First half was offensively, Bruce, you can just – do you see what I'm talking about when coaches calling plays for guys? He is literally starting to do that with Jalen. Like, I'm going to you the first possession. In practice, he's telling him this, I guarantee you. Like, you're going to get the ball here, and I want you to shoot that little floater that Jackson hates. And I want you to make it because I know you can make that shot all the time. And with Jalen, look, he ended up – kudos to Bruce for getting him 11 shots tonight. And I did think Jalen was a little more aggressive looking for his shot. He took a couple that shocked me. I was like, oh, like, I can't believe he shot that. Look, he has to be more consistent. He has to be more assertive. For this, I just believe in the depth of my soul that for this team to get to the, not like, we're not talking Final Four necessarily. We're just, for this team to get to be dangerous like they can be, I just think he's the missing piece. He had a better second half. It was good to see him bounce back, but 4 turnovers, including one at the end of the game, up 1. 30 seconds to go. The guy read his eyes like a book. And meanwhile, Jalen is literally wide open at the 3-point line. He's our second best 3-point shooter on the year. And
40% plus from three. And he
doesn't take the shot.
Turned the ball over in the like at the most crucial time possible.
Now, to be fair, on the other end, Castleton drives, gets past Broome. Jalen steps over, good help defense, leads to a turnover. Wendell gets the layup, game over. So, I mean, Jalen is doing good things, but 2 rebounds is disgusting in 30 minutes. Auburn dominated the boards 40-28. That's a huge reason Auburn won this game. But Jalen, I saw him not grabbing some rebounds that he should have. I saw it feels like when things don't go well for him sometimes, he has a tendency to want to kind of disappear. And we need him to be the guy that doesn't do that. It's hilarious. It's the opposite from Alan Flanagan. I would love to see Jalen Williams get a charge called on him. I would love to see Jalen Williams commit a flagrant foul. Get tough out there, Jalen. I want people to be scared of Jalen, and no one's scared of Jalen right now because he backs down every time he goes in the post, and he does this little floater that's super annoying to me because he should be a big athletic guy, and it's just killing me. And I would take him getting a charge called on him or flagrant foul called on him just to make sure he knows how to be tough. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. He needs to be more aggressive going to the rim. Having said that, I think one of the big issues with him, if you've watched basketball a lot, some guys look like they deserve the foul calls when they're driving to the rim. The best example, Jackson's been on this for years. If you, I guess y'all weren't listening to the podcast during the Samir days, but when Jackson and I would talk on the phone, Samir, like first year, he never got a call when he was playing on that Final Four team. Like he always looked just kind of not as good as our other players, and it just never worked for him. He would
drive and double clutch, and it looked like he didn't know where he was supposed to go, and it would look just awful, and it completely made him a nothing player, a fine player. He's fine. His second year, he gets the star power bit, gets his name out there a bit, and all of a sudden, when he goes to make that double clutch, the foul's getting called every time. He lived on that free throw line in his second year, and half of his points would come from free throw lines on drives. And then he got to the point where people were afraid every time he'd foul. So then he could finish easier because they weren't quite getting as aggressive. And you're right. You were talking about during the game, Jalen does not get these calls because he doesn't look like he's supposed to be there. He doesn't get the name recognition. Colin Castleton does get these. He only had 2 free throw attempts, but it feels like the calls are happening when you have that name power, and you have to want it. You have to go get it.
And it's not just the name power. Like, it's easy for us to say, like, oh, well, like the Stars or whatever. But, like, it is maybe part of that. Like, the refs are human. They know these players really well. I think a lot of it is just, like, look like you belong. Like, it's hard to even find the word. But, like, KD is a psychopath. But when he goes to the rim, like, he looks like he wants to get fouled, right? Like, Wendell Green even, like, has a certain swagger going to the basket. Now, I don't think Jalen is one of those power forwards that's going to ever be an explosive
go so hard at the basket that they have to blow something. Was it a charge? Was it a foul? And guess what? If you're on offense and you're the aggressor, they're probably going to call a foul for you half the time because it feels like the refs have a whistle in their mouth half the time, and they know there was too much contact for that to be a legal play. The whistle's going to get called, and probably 75% of the time, if not more, it's going to be you going to the free throw line. Make it happen. Stop shooting the little floater. And I said during the game when I was talking about it, I would stop asking for that because clearly it's just not going to happen this year when you're this many games in, 13 games in. But I would still love to see it.
Well, I just don't want him to get to the point. I want him to try to make the shot, which some of our other players who will remain unnamed when they go to the rim.
No, this won't remain unnamed. KD cannot finish through contact, but he keeps seeking contact. He had a really bad one this time where he wasn't seeking it, but it was just another confirmation that he got a little wedgie, which when you get a ball stuck between the goal post and the backboard, it was just another confirmation like, wow, we really need that too. And he took contact and he could not finish that ball. He can't do it.
Yeah, so I want Jalen to try to make the shots. I don't want him to kind of play out of his element, but he is so calm and so steady and so under control that it does hurt him getting foul calls. I was getting a little frustrated. I was frustrated with how he played. We will not win many conference games if he plays like he did in the first half. I credit him and Bruce for going to him in the second half, and Jalen hit, I think he was 4 of 5, 4 of 6 in the second half. He hit his shots. He kept us in the game when it was getting really ugly. Like I'm really encouraged that he played that kind of game and he has 13 points. That's a good sign for his development. That's a good sign for how important he is on this team. but we need more from him. Like, I don't know how else to say it, because look around. I mean, we could get into a lot of things. You know, look at Alan Flanagan. Look at KD in the way he played in this game. Look at Trey. Trey Donaldson was fine as a backup point guard, but he made a couple nice passes and a couple plays, but he was pretty quiet. Like, there aren't many options if Jalen's not going to be one of our bigger playmakers.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up, I was about to say, let's talk about the 2 position. It's coming down to there's just not a guy to go to. There's not, like, we talked about who could elevate this team a couple podcasts back, and we were really hoping it was Alan Flanagan. It's just really not looking like that. Matt is really hoping it's Jalen. We're all hoping it's Jalen. It's just not quite happening there. Same with Jonai Broom. We're really hoping he becomes like a guy that we just can really feel good about throwing the ball into. And it's maybe that's where we try to aim at next. Clearly, Bruce really was aiming at Jalen to be that guy this game, really working the ball to him. He's shown glimpses. I say give it another game or two. Give it this Georgia game, another game to say, Jalen, go at it again. I mean, we're not like giving up on it. It's what we have.
We don't have any other options, Jackson.
Yeah,
like, I really don't.
It just sucks because we go through that. We go at the 2 and you want to be like, all right, so Zepp is just giving us a nothing burger over and over again. He's not impactful at all on offense, which just really sucks because you hoped he would have progressed year over year, and it doesn't feel like he's progressed. And you wonder almost if you can switch something up there at the 2. I mean, I think you need KD to come off the bench because you have some of your offensive guys and the starters, and you need some people to come off the bench and give you some offense, and KD's kind of that guy. But then you look around, I mean, if you want to get into the Ben's take, do you want to start Trey? And then that way you have Wendell coming off the bench and maybe put KD. And I don't know, like, we're clearly, it's funny. Bruce told us he doesn't care about the whole starting lineup thing. He doesn't mind switching people in and out. And here we are with the same starting lineup that we started with. And it feels like we need to do something. I don't see him, like, I don't see anything glaring that we need to do, but it just feels like you got to keep experimenting. That's what I want. That's what I said in the SEC preview. That's what I said in the preseason preview episode, that I want to keep tinkering. And if we get to the end of the year and we tinkered all we could and we never got there and we just find out this team wasn't that good, okay. But I don't want to stop tinkering and hope. I just hope it's the opposite of last year's team and we tinker so hard that halfway through SEC play, we get hot.
But let's define what that even means, because it's easy to say, well, we're not literally the only thing that has not been tinkered with through 13 games is the starting lineup. The minutes are changing, the roles are changing, the players are changing, the offense is changing, the shot selection is changing, the defensive strategy is changing. They are tinkering hardcore, and I think that should scare us a little bit. And honestly, if you watch that game tonight, when was Auburn at their best? The first 4 minutes of the second half, and the last 4 minutes of the game. And who was on the floor? It was the starting 5, except for KD in for Zepp at the end. So
that's a changeup. That's a changeup from where we had
no, it's not.
Finisher Alan Flanagan in the last bunch of games, and now we have finisher Chris Moore. So you're right. I mean, maybe it's not the starters, but maybe it's the finishers. Maybe it's
all changing. Yeah. It's all changing. Like, and honestly, our starts have been good most of the time. Like, so I really don't see a need to change the starting lineup.
Well, then you wonder a game like this where we start 7-0 and you say, man, it feels like we've kind of taken charge real quick. Let's keep this going. And then we just fade so hard when the next group came in and we went back to, I think, 8-8, 7-7. So then you wonder, oh, is it 2? Do we need to spread it out a little more? Do we want to push even harder to start?
No, we need to keep playing Johan and Chance more. Is it too soon? Is it too soon?
It is too soon. Johan's shrinking even more to 7 minutes and Chance doesn't play at all anymore. We needed them to contribute. If you think about it, like, I was going to bring this up a little later, but like, if you think about the expectations for this team, if you just told yourself at the beginning of the season or at the end of last season that this team is basically the exact same team plus Jonai, and then, or like, you're missing Walker and Jabari and you just add Jonai, you would say, oof, that's going to be tough. Our guards really struggled at the end last time. The 3 position is, in fact, it has less options because we just lose a player at that point, basically, and replace an amazing player with Jonai, and we don't have Jabari. So, like, what are you expecting when you're like, yeah, not great? And so the fact that Johan and Chance were just out, you just got to reevaluate your entire expectations. Yeah,
you do, and I think we are going to have to really do a good job of that. But look, with this team that we're just this says a lot about where Auburn basketball is at. Honestly, we're 11-2. By the way, little stat. I know we love these things. We always want to brag about them. Bruce said tonight he accomplished something that he really had on his list. He didn't really tell us anything he had on his list, but he says he had this on his list. Auburn basketball has been ranked in every AP poll during the 2022 calendar year, going all the way back to January of early this year. With this group and this situation, we're 11-2. We're top 30 in every single metric. We're up in the top 15 in some metrics nationally. I don't think we're quite there, but we're in a great spot for how rough some of this feels. And I think we need to keep in mind, like, this staff, it has won the most games in the league for the last 5 years for a reason. It's not because we've had the most talent. It's not because we've had the best recruiting. It's not because it's this system and this group of coaches. So let's give them time. They are tinkering. It feels, you're right, because that's the way people should think about it. You're getting Trey Donaldson backup point guard minutes and Janai Broome added to last year's team without Walker and Jabari right now.
You know, I love another little factor in this game we talked about beforehand. The opposing coach, Todd Golden, right? I believe his name,
Yep.
Florida coach. Bruce Pearl disciple, found him when Bruce was coaching the Maccabee Jewish American team in Israel a long time ago, like 2007 or something like that. Found this guy who was an assistant. They were showing some of the pictures, I believe, on the broadcast. We didn't have our audio on, so we missed some of that stuff. And then he went to San Francisco for a bit. Now he's at Florida. Love that we start with a win there. I honestly was like gonna be pretty sad if Bruce, his first like real disciple that like comes up to be a peer, takes him out in the first game, a home game. I'm hoping Bruce gets some more of these disciples. I'm hoping Stephen Pearl goes and gets a mid-major job in the next couple of years. As much as we will miss him, I'm hoping, you know, just we love these connections. You've seen them in different sports. You've seen it in basketball itself, the funny little connections that come back, that people feel comfortable coming back one day. So you want them to go out and get that experience. So it's just great to get that win at home. I don't believe we play Florida again this year. So that's great that we kind of crossed that off. Great that we don't have to see Colin Castleton again. Great that we held him back and kind of broke that curse a little bit from last year where we struggled with him 2 games in a row. I don't know if you want to talk more down these players here, if you want to get into some SEC stuff.
Well, let's do a scan. I have a few things I want to point out about the game. We kind of didn't. I think we had a lot of feelings about watching this game, and maybe we didn't get into the game quite as much. KD continues to make plays down the stretch when everybody else might feel a little scared. He drove fearlessly. He made a great pass to Janai Broome at a crucial moment with like a minute 20 left. Nothing really phases him. I thought he was not good at all most of this game, kind of on both ends. But then late, when it gets to that stressful time in the game, like, he just always finds himself around the ball and making plays. So I do want to give credit to him.
He has these little bursts, and we've talked about it for 2 years now. These little bursts where he's not scared of anybody, and when he can sense like blood in the water, like a shark, when he needs to go make these moves. And he's been amazingly good at understanding when it needs to be. And maybe we're like underplaying when he tries to do it when we don't need him to do it. But it honestly it feels like he's got great timing on it. We were joking, I think, on the last game, the Washington game, maybe, that we need to nickname it somehow, if it's psycho mode or Tasmanian devil mode or little psycho, whatever. I think psycho mode sounds good. We might go with that, or we might, let us know what you think. But he has these little psycho mode like time periods where he knows what to do and he's not scared of anybody. He goes and gets the points that we need. And thank God we still have that. It's frustrating because you see in his psycho modes what he can be, and you wish he could stay at that level. He could keep that as his average, and he's just not doing it. And maybe that's another one of those. Maybe we're frustrated now, and the next game they look great or something. But that so many of these players I was hoping would find their little progressions. I was really hoping that KD in the offseason would really work on his 3-point shot, whatever it needs to happen to just up it even to 33%. That's where I feel like is a good shooter. And he's like a 2 guard. You would think he could have that. And he just hasn't gotten there yet. You're hoping Zep could pick up his offense a little bit. Maybe Dylan Cardwell, he's improved a little bit. You hoped Allen Flanagan would show a little bit, season over season. We used to joke that every season new player would come in and look way more muscular or really feel like they've like transformed over an offseason. I don't think we have that guy this time. I hoped it would have been Jalen Williams. He feels like he can still put some muscle on maybe, but
honestly, Cardwell looks a lot better, like physically.
Yeah, maybe, but it felt like for a couple years there were players that you were just like, whoa,
Chuma.
Over the offseason, this guy at Chuma was like that. Malik Dunbar was like that. There was a couple other guys like that just came out and you were like, almost like, this is a completely different player. I don't know if it's new strength and conditioning or what, or just some of these guys have not, no different. Okay. Some of these guys just, I don't know who is taken other than Dylan Cardwell. I will give him props for looking better than he looked last year. I don't know if anybody, and I'll give Wendell Green too. He's had some
Chris
good
Moore,
assists. Chris
Wendell
Moore.
dropped some weight. Chris looks much more capable and physical this year than he did.
Yeah. And Wendell's worked on being a more pass first guy for sure. But I don't know. I guess I'm looking at the disappointments a bit in the like development arena of some of these guys. So I don't know. KD, I hoped he would take just a little bit more of the next step.
Look, anything on, I mentioned Trey was a lot quieter, but he didn't hurt us. He made a great pass to Chris Moore on a backdoor in a possession that was late at a pivotal time. So, Trey's going to have those minutes. It's going to be a really good growing experience for him. But, I don't expect a ton of offense out of him, but he's shown capable. He's shown himself capable in the past games. So it'll be interesting to see about him. I did want to say about Zep. Zep made a lot of really good winning plays tonight that, again, y'all know if you listened to me last year, if you ever if you've coached at all, or like Zep does all the little things, kind of like Chris Moore. Chris Moore's a bigger guy who's more inside, more around the rim, around the ball. Zep does all those little things. He had a huge steal. I just want to praise this for a minute. We're down 4 with 4 minutes to go going into that last TV timeout window. And I think we got a score, and then Zep forces a steal, and it gets to Flanigan on a transition dunk. And that ties the game, and then you're even, and then you can play ball the last 4 minutes. And that was a huge play in the game. So Zep at least is still doing those Zep things. But Johan, man, like he's on the floor 7 minutes, and it's like, where was he?
I saw a play he made one time. He went up the court, they passed the ball, and then he immediately did a little pass off to someone else. And that's Johan. That's all he does. That's all he does is pass the ball off and then goes in the corner and sits there. And then you made a point later in the game too. It's so much fun to watch in person together because you can really hear the little comments back and forth. And there was a time later in the game that he could have gotten a pass to. Like the players really looked over at him and said, nah, it didn't pass on the ball.
That's honestly my favorite stuff. If you watch a lot of basketball and players really well, like you can notice that. And look, maybe not, but it just sometimes looks so odd. Like the players practice with these guys all the time, right? Like they have certain ideas about who should get the ball and who should get the shots. And like, they were like, nah, we're not doing that this late in the game. And I also want to point out, so I didn't notice this in the second half, but I think they played Chris Moore in some backup power forward minutes. Johan played one stretch early in the second half, and then I think they played Chris Moore the other place. And you mentioned the big thing. I believe this is the first time Chris Moore finished the game over Flanigan. And I don't know if you want to say anything about Flanigan, but like his only points are on that breakaway dunk, which was big, but like 3 turnovers, no assists. I thought defensively he got burned a couple times, and that he's been really good on defense. He's had a great attitude. We're not trying to bash Flanigan, but
that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to talk about, Flanigan. I hope we're not being too negative on this one. We just had a big SEC first win. Amazing. I hope we're not being too negative here and people don't want to listen because we're the negative Nancy's or whatever. 2, Allen Flanigan took another charge. We're always on the lookout for that because he had such a bad time with it last year, but he's, overall, he hasn't taken a ton of them this year, which is great. 3, here's some praise. Here's some positive things for Allen Flanigan. Even after all of this, me and Matt really had we were afraid that Allen Flanigan, with the attitude coming in, he missed those weird practices in the fall. He was supposed to go to the NBA last year. It didn't work out. The sad injury. We didn't know where he was during those fall practices. He looked frustrated all last year and angry at times and just not fitting in with the team. You worried with the missing practices and everything that just like, he wouldn't mesh with this team and he wouldn't play the defense he needs to play. He'd be looking for his way out that he should have left a long time ago and that he'd already given this team everything and now he needs to get his or whatever. He's not doing that at all. He's got a great attitude out there. He's really working hard. He's playing the kind of guy that if he never did have that season we thought where he was going to move on is the kind of thing we'd expect. A guy that's just a glue guy that's been on the teams, coach's son, guy that goes out there and makes little plays, does what he can. The kind of guy that like was a low 4-star, high 3-star, whatever he was, that just like, you're glad to have him as a backup on the team. You wish he could play a little better, but he's doing what needs to be done. And that's the praise I want to give him. It's just, he's keeping a good attitude so far, as at least from the outside looking in. And that's what we need. And with this many guys on the team, all it takes is one guy losing it. I think we already know that maybe KD punched somebody or something, or somehow got suspended. So you're watching for the cracks, And it's just great that Allen Flanigan's not one of those cracks right now that we know of. So praise to Allen Flanigan. And just if we want to do some more positive stuff, because I think I'm, even as one of the negative Nancy's usually. I think it's just really fun that we got to start off with a win, and that's huge when I think Kentucky went down tonight and some other teams are probably going to lose. And we got to start with a win. And imagine if we lost this, like going into the Georgia and Arkansas games. We're so excited for that Arkansas game in 2 weeks or whatever it is, a week and a half. And man, and now we got Georgia away coming up, and we have like a week off before that, I believe. So I'm just really excited for the rest of the season. And I really need us to win these first two so that Arkansas game matters, because I really want that. And then all it takes is a little momentum. You win this game by just a little bit, and the team melds a little bit from that. You go play at Georgia and get a decent win there. Hopefully it's away, so it's going to be tough. Don't expect to go in and win that, even though we're going to have like a home crowd in Athens. But, you win that, and all of a sudden you just got a little more momentum. And then you get that Arkansas game, and anything can happen. You pull that baby off. It just keeps the momentum low. Let's keep the momentum going. The crowd matters. We matter as fans out there. I think in Neville Arena, it gives us that 5-10 point bump. Arkansas is missing their best player, Nick Smith, I believe. I don't think Ryan talked about last podcast. We don't think he's going to play again this year. If he does, honestly, it probably will be our game. He'll want to come back for a top 25 matchup and see what he can do. But let's get that momentum going. It's fun out there. We're having fun.
Yes, and but you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think what everybody's dealing with, if you call it negativity, it's the expectations and the hopes. Like, look, last year was a incredible success for this basketball program, and we're kind of at this point where we want to be in the running every year, which is asking a lot when you look at Auburn basketball historically. But we feel like we have these guys who can play, and like tonight, I think is a great example. If you're looking for the positives, like, I just think we can play so much better than that. And I know we're going to play better teams than Florida, and I know we're going to have to go on the road, but like, I just really feel like we will be better on offense than this. I could be wrong, but I really think this was on the low end of what we can be offensively. And if we come out with a win against a possible NCAA tournament team, when we play like this, when we shoot like this, when we shoot free throws like this, and when we turn it over that much in the first half, that's a good sign. Like, if you win those games, the clunkers, as you say, like, that's a good sign. And you're right. We need the momentum, and we need guys. I need these guys to play with that Auburn, like, swagger and that mentality. And it just feels like they're really struggling with some like, I'm not saying they're like doubting themselves necessarily, but that nobody looks super confident in the flow of the offense on that end right now. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, the swagger was not there, and we could say that it wasn't a swagger event out there. If we want to, like, we didn't see a fun KD burst of energy, like yelling and having a good time. We didn't see a Dylan Cardwell big fun yelling and all that. So that is something to watch from that. It is interesting. We didn't see that. But
by the way,
I'm gonna move. Yeah, go ahead.
I know. I just want to. I wanted to point out two things. Why did Auburn win this game? Offensive rebounds. We won by 12 in rebounds. They were all offensive. That was the gap. So 17 offensive rebounds leads to 8 extra shots. We shot the ball 8 more times than Florida. We made 2 more shots than them because of that. Now, you can look at the free throws. We should have shot free throws better. But one of the reasons Auburn's won the game is the second chance, the hustle, the opportunities. And that's the kind of team we've got to be. I told you during one of the timeouts, like, we cannot be a team that gets out hustled and out physicaled. That cannot happen with this group. So I'm really encouraged that it didn't. The other thing that I thought I didn't realize this in the flow of the game. Just everybody dial in for this one. This is the one for the water cooler tomorrow. This is the stat, okay? First half offense, 5 assists, 12 turnovers. Horrific. Second half, 11 assists, 3 turnovers. It's easy to say we went from 12 to 3 turnovers. That's great. That's important. We cut the turnovers down. 3.5 is excellent. We did a very good job in the second half. But man, 11 assists in one half, sharing the basketball, getting better looks, we got better shots in the second half. So always pay attention to the assist numbers in Bruce's offense. Like, I really think that's important for this team. We've got to manufacture good looks, and that comes from good ball movement and good passing and not turning it over.
That's the stats right there. And I have to bring out one more stat because we're a block party show. We lost the block party battle. They had 6 blocks. We had 3. Jonai had 1. Chris Moore had 1. Dylan Cardwell had 1.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know how live these stats are. They're probably not having this game involved. Jonai Broom is number 6 in the country, supposedly, with 2.8 blocks per game. And if we look at per team here, blocks per game, we are still leading. I don't know if this, brings these games. It says through 12 games. I believe that was our 13th, right? Mm-hmm. So this doesn't say, hey, before this game, still winning. Blocks per game, 7.1. The next best team, 6.1. Big gap for there. A bunch of them underneath that are on the sixes, or 6.1, 6.1, 6.5.9, 5, a bunch of that. So we are a full block ahead of everyone else. So even with the game down a bit on this one, maybe with the 3, we could still keep up there. So just something to watch. Still love the block party. I think them pulling our guys out a little bit was a thing. So we'll see how the strategy keeps going with that. If we want to move on to maybe around the SEC a bit, does that sound good? Yep. You want to look that up there?
Yep.
We can look at, part of the way to look at too is we'll talk real quick about this. We're doing an SEC prediction contest with all the other podcasts. I thought it would be kind of fun to, there's several podcasts that cover different sports for Auburn. I think a lot, if you listen to us, you probably listen to several of these other podcasts. And probably, maybe I'm the only one that listens to all the Auburn podcasts, but I thought it'd be cool to bring them all together a bit and do a little context amongst the podcast guys. We have the Jungle, we have the AU Wishbone, we have College and Mag, Orange and True podcast. We have War Report. We have E2C. We have Locked On Auburn. I believe that's all of them, right? And the Auburn Observer, Painter Sharpless is in there. So we're going to keep you guys updated. It's not a lot to discuss right now because it's early, but we've got everybody in there. It's going to be a little contest. Just to go over our 4 real quick. I have us winning 12 games in the SEC. Matt has 11. Ben has 12. Stormin Norman has 10. So he's the most far down on there. Me and Ben have 12, but we wildly differ on which ones are which. Ben had us losing this one. Ben Allen Plexco, the AU Wishbone, has a loss on this one also. So they're the only 2 that don't have a point so far. Everyone else is tied. In the standings, we'll keep you updated. Hopefully we'll see which podcast host has the most basketball knowledge out there. I sure hope it's us, since we only do basketball and all these other podcasts too, all these different sports. But shout out again to everybody else doing these podcast contests out here. It's really cool that we're all kind of getting together a bit. The next game we play is away at Georgia.
Yep.
Skip a whole week. We're playing on January 4th. I was really sad we're not playing Saturdays. I'm not always down south, and I was actually kind of looking at the schedule today, being like, man, don't we play Georgia next? It's in Athens. There's going to be a lot of people there. Like, let me make sure what that distance from Nashville to Athens is. I was like, crap,
next week.
Not till Wednesday. But we'll have our fun on Saturday. I think that's New Year's Eve, maybe. No, yeah, New Year's Eve is Saturday, so we'll get to have our fun without having to worry too much about if we're going to win or not. And then we got Arkansas plays at home. That is a huge game. Me and Storm and Norman, we're talking about how that's the biggest game we have circled for the entire year. The third game of the SEC. That's for us, for me and Ryan. That's the game we want.
It's a big one, but look, I mean, you say that, and then Alabama comes in on a Saturday for the first time in a while, in a few weeks, and that'll be a pretty big one. But
I want to win that Arkansas game so bad. They've gotten so smug with their recruiting of muscle men and beating us at home last year when we were number 1. I hate them.
Well, if you're looking around the SEC, they lost at LSU tonight.
No way. They lost. I was watching that. Oh, this is great. This is great.
So they lost. They have a lot of good young players. Anthony Black is really good. But yeah, their guy, Nick Smith, right? Yeah, he did not play tonight. They lost. Other than that, Georgia had a close call with Rider. They're still playing their non-conference. They won by 6.
So we will Tennessee, be their first. We will be their first SEC game.
I believe that's true.
You're just skipping over the biggest one in my opinion. I mean, actually, the biggest one is Arkansas going down to. Okay, all right.
Now I got to see, Georgia's first SEC game is Auburn. And so Alabama beats Mississippi State on the road. Mississippi State had a great non-conference schedule. It'll be really interesting to see how they do. They have a new coach who's they're kind of like us, a great defensive team.
I'm predicting Mississippi State to lose many games now that they went undefeated to start. They had a conference and lost their very last one, I believe, to Creighton maybe. And they fall. I think they're gonna. No, it wasn't even Creighton. Somebody
worse. Creighton's good. Creighton's really good.
Drake maybe. I think it was Drake maybe. And I predicted that was kind of a paper tiger situation. They're gonna lose a bunch. I wouldn't put too much stock in Alabama's top 25 win against Mississippi State this time.
I put some stock in that they scored 78 on the road against that defense. I think Alabama's really good. People are gonna get annoyed at me saying that. I just think
I will never admit it.
Well, you haven't watched them because they're really good. Tennessee was down 6 at halftime at Ole Miss, rallied back, close game, last-minute game. They win 63-59. And then the big kind of story of the day, other than Arkansas losing, was Missouri hosting Kentucky and beat them up 10 to 20 points like the whole way, pretty much. Really took it to Kentucky. Kentucky has 0 quad 1 wins, and they played a bunch of teams that would have qualified for that early in the year. They didn't beat any of them. They are ranked 19th right now in the AP poll, ahead of us at 20. We'll see how the voters. I know what would happen if Auburn had that resume and lost by 14 to Missouri on the road.
It'll be the most Kentucky thing ever if they don't fall out of the top 25 after that. And Missouri, I've heard people talking about, deserve to be in the top 25.
Missouri's good. Missouri's a good team. They probably an NCAA tournament team. So it's not an embarrassing loss or anything, but when Kentucky loses that dominantly, like in the first SEC game, that does raise some eyebrows for sure.
Can we look at their box score real quick? There's a guy on Missouri that scored 30 points, I believe, and I've heard great things about Missouri's offense. I think they lead the SEC in offense, maybe. And I wanted to remember this name for when we play him. So who is it?
I remember him, Brown, Kobe Brown. Yeah, good player from Huntsville. Shout out.
What does he play? What is he? He's a guard. Kobe Brown. He's a senior.
6'8", 250. Power forward.
Scored 30 points, 6 rebounds on Kentucky. Name to look out for if he has another game or two like this. And there's 2 Browns on the team, so don't confuse them. There's Kobe and Caleb. Kobe Bryant, Kobe Brown. You'll remember it that way.
What about by the way, I noticed something in the Arkansas LSU box score that you might find interesting. They're down one of their best players, which we know.
Arkansas scored 57. That was less than what Florida scored against us.
Do you want to talk about depth? Because, look, our depth isn't necessarily scoring, but we do play a bunch of guys.
3 guys played 40 minutes in this game. That's crazy.
And look at
I hope they do that again next game, and I hope they do that against us, and I hope we use our platoons against them.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta play them at home with that energy and wear them down, because like that. I don't know if that's Arkansas's plan or if they're down. They might be down multiple players. I really don't know, but like they got 10 total minutes from their entire bench. Johan got 7. Johan got 7 tonight. Their entire bench in a road game against LSU got 10 minutes.
Who do they play next between us and them?
Good question.
Schedule up. Yeah, that can't believe that. That's the most bizarre world opposite of our team and how many minutes we play.
Hosting Missouri.
Oh, that will be fun too. After Missouri just pulled that up against Kentucky, that's interesting. You know, Tennessee and Alabama. I bet you Alabama will move up a little bit. Probably they'll be the 2 teams that are really feeling like they're doing something. I don't really feel like anybody in this league is unbeatable, is some great juggernaut or anything. Last year, Kentucky and Auburn looked really good last year, and I don't think there's a team right now that's pulled away really. And I'm hoping it stays that way because I don't think we're ever going to pull away. But if everyone can kind of stay jockeying around. That would be really great for us. We'd love to just stay in the conversation as long as possible.
Yes. Again, just if you didn't listen to our, SEC or our season preview, I wasn't on the SEC preview because I was trying not to die in the ice apocalypse.
Yeah. But hey, how about that? Matt's alive, everybody. I think I left it on kind of a cliffhanger. Sorry I didn't address that at the beginning, but he did not have to sleep in his car. He made it once he got to the Tennessee roads. They were much nicer, I believe. But he struggled out there. I think a lot of people struggled out there. So everybody that survived this flash blizzard or whatever you want to call it, North Alabama, shout out to you.
Yeah. So sorry. But what was I saying? Our last 3 games. Our last 3 games are in some order: Alabama, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, I believe. So these first 15, like I think our entire goal has to, like exactly like you said, root against the top teams. Like we want Tennessee to stub their toe because we know we're going to lose a few. Like we want Alabama to lose a few and just keep us within a game or two, because if we're within a game or two of first place going into that last week or two, like we will have a chance to play our way in. Is it likely that we could come from behind and win the league? No, but like it almost happened to some other teams last year with us, right? Like we started struggling a little bit and it got a little vulnerable there at the end.
How about Arkansas? Maybe that, hopefully we don't lose our first 3 games. We already won 1, which is good, but Arkansas lost 3 games to start their season last year, and we're about to catch us at the end. So you just hope we keep tinkering and we don't lose a game like this next one at Georgia that we look back on and go, man, even when we were playing badly, we should have won that game. So just hope you win your clunkers like we did today. Hope you win. Even if Georgia's a clunker, just win it and we keep tinkering until we figure something out. And I do think there's still some things we can figure out. I don't think we have some high ceiling, but I do think there's some little
Yeah.
pieces that we can figure out and turn this team into something a little more functional on offense, at
So
least.
so Georgia, I'm looking at their schedule, and we'll probably wrap it up here shortly. But Georgia hasn't lost at home. They haven't played a brutal schedule, but their losses were at UAB, at Wake Forest, and at Georgia Tech. And they beat Notre Dame. Chattanooga's a pretty good team for a mid-major. They beat them in a close one at home last week.
Did they? Is that Notre Dame game in Athens? That's so strange. I'll be upset if they can pull Notre Dame into Athens, but we can't pull a P5 notable
I think
team.
it was somewhere. It might have been somewhere else.
Hoopsgiving
Yeah, it was in
matchup.
It was in Atlanta. It was in Atlanta. But yeah,
which was basically a home game for them. So,
but I'm just pointing out, like, Georgia's 10-3, and now we know that those non-conference records don't always tell the tale, but like
the big storyline for me for Georgia is that they have Mike White as the coach.
Yep.
He is the guy that coached Florida the last couple of years and was kind of one of those classic just good enough coaches that just frustrate the ever living mess out of a fan base. That he made the tournament pretty average amount, a mediocre
Barely.
amount, and Florida's kind of gotten to a point after the great run in the 2000s. They expect to do well in basketball. They won some national championships. They've gone to another one, I believe. They expect to do well, and he was just kind of averagely, like, just barely getting them in or just barely falling out. Something we would have loved in the past, but they got so frustrated. It's one of those, you wonder if you're going to curse yourself by letting them go, And so he left, and immediately Georgia hired him. I don't know if that was a great hire by Georgia. I don't know if you're doing mediocre at Florida, you expect to do great at Georgia. I think I would have taken a shot at a younger guy or somebody, a big recruiter or something, but he's got experience. He played well. He coached the Florida teams well against us. We've gotten booned by them several times. So just something to watch out for. They don't, they have a veteran coach. So, how many times have we struggled in Athens too? Don't expect just because Georgia's not a good team and they won the last year. It's every single time we go there. Yeah. Even the Final Four team struggled. The number one team ranked in the country struggled. Every time we struggle. So you just hope, don't be frustrated if we win that game by a couple points. Be ecstatic that we won that game at all, in my opinion.
Yes. You got to celebrate every win, like we talked about with this one, but especially the road ones, right? And especially one against a rival of yours that, by the way, most of our great players are coming from Georgia while Georgia's down. So let's keep them down. Let's do our part to, like, keep asserting ourselves and build a little win streak against Georgia. Because last year, you remember Wendell bailed us out with a weird last second possession with that great team.
He bailed us out with a great charge that didn't get caught. We can admit it, I think. But, let's start that as a thing. It's late in the podcast, but be ecstatic for every away win. I don't care how we win that game. I don't care if we win 20-19. I don't care if they score 150 and we scored 151. If we win away in the SEC, that is absolutely huge. So just that's all you want. That's all you want out of that Georgia game is a W.
You might have been like me watching this game tonight against Florida and being stressed out of your mind. And I saw Allie Davison, who's a really big person on Twitter, said this team might be the death of me, but War Eagle. It's for me, I get in that zone for that 2 hours where I just want to win so bad. And it's a little stressful and you're worried about everything that's going on. But man, that exhale when you win one of these, there's 18 of them. We got the first one. They are hard to get. You're going to see it every night in this league. They're hard to get. They're really hard to get on the road. You should feel like Superman. Like, you should be pumped when you win a game, no matter how ugly it is. Because, again, these games for a team like Auburn this year, we are going to be in these tight, close games all year. And I really think you need to keep in mind, like, one of the things people aren't going to talk about enough is that our veteran guys in the last 4 minutes of this game looked very comfortable and took care of their business. They missed a couple free throws. There were some mistakes, Jalen's turnover, all that. But overall, we looked very comfortable in a game we easily could have lost. And, Florida turned it over on their last possession. They called all those timeouts that you were so thrilled that Florida called. They led to literally nothing for them. They didn't do anything with them. So the veteran presence, now that the young guys really are kind of out of the rotation for the most part, hopefully that will have some benefit in these close games.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming and listening again. Thanks everybody that came out to the watch party kind of situation in Nashville. And we'll see you again at the Georgia game. War Eagle, Matt.
Happy New Year. War Eagle 1-0, SEC champs, defending.